take myself away from reality when I'm looking through that viewfinder. It's a totally different world. When we were doing the professionals, we were doing ambulance drivers, and then we were at a crash one night where, unfortunately, this man and his girlfriend got into a car accident, and we had to evacuate him to hospital. And in the back of the car, I remember the ambulance attendant just trying to keep him, sedated, and the guy was just full of blood, and it was just crazy what was going on. But because the adrenaline's going, and I'm in the back of the ambulance with him as we're going to hospital, and he's just the emotion that was going on, even with the driver. Not even myself, though. I was just totally taken away from that. Never even thought about it. And we got to Grand River Hospital and extricated the guy out of the ambulance. And, I couldn't go into the hospital, but I just shot it as the doors, closed and the gurney's going through. And then went back in the floor, shot a shot of the floor of the ambulance, and it was just like blood everywhere.
Must have been hard to get him to sign the non-disclosure agreement.
He's kind of cramped up at that time. He just put the pen in his hand and just wiggled it around. But needless to say, the very next day, the attendant and I were in a edit suite at CKCO watching the footage, and that's, I think, when it really struck me, that after the fact, and you're looking at the footage, that's when things are really sinking in. Like, holy fuck, like you didn't feel that way when you're shooting it or acquiring it, but it was just the emotion and looking at it after and going like, whoa,
That's interesting. You kind of set yourself aside from the actual event while you're shooting.
Yeah, and it's really, it's troubling that way as well. I mean, I wouldn't be shooting it if suddenly you had a heart attack or you needed assistance or whatever, and there's nobody else around. I'm not going to stand over you and, do that. I mean,
well, I was actually going to just ask, if you're at an event like the Grand Prix or something, and a car goes off the track or something, obviously, I guess you start wanting to go there, right? And you want to see the tire fly off the car and the explosion. Obviously, you don't want anybody to get hurt. But is your first reaction to move the camera to it, or is it that you look first and then go, like, what's...
Or do you continue shooting the race and not pay attention to the accident where the car went into the audience?
I mean, it really depends on what you're doing. A lot of races that I've shot are like multi-camera, like for Speed Week,
yeah.
So you're at Moseport or you're at Mount
And you're on a
Tremblant.
headset and the director's directing.
Yeah, totally right. So, I mean, in that case, they would call you off of it. But in most cases anyway, that's going to take you to commercial break or whatever because there's yellow flags around the track, right? But for the most part, you like I said, you follow the puck. You just try to maintain, your frame. Sometimes, you don't look around from the viewfinder. And I've known cameramen, like I shot one crash at Moseport where I picked up the crash and then the car went by me on the other side of the track. But just down from me was another camera guy on scaffolding, and that car was just inches away from the side of him. Like if he'd been out looking like that, I'm sure he would have got hurt somehow. But
Wow.
And it's treacherous as well when you're shooting auto racing. There's all kinds of debris that comes off the track, like the rubber from tires and things like that, or just rocks or whatever. One of my most infamous that I recall that I didn't like, but it was at Mount Tremblant, and it was an Audi. I was on corner 3, so they get the start race, they cut to another camera, and they cut to me, and the cars come over the hill, and they're going to go like that, and I'm on a big studio camera, and I'm just behind the guardrail, and of course I've got 2 or 3 layers of old rubber tires in front of me, right? So the Audi that I'm tracking comes up over the hill, and all of a sudden I notice he's not going right. He's coming straight towards me. And as soon as he gets off the asphalt, he's on grass, which, picks the vehicle speed up even more. And he came in totally right straight towards me. And I just, sphincter tightened up and just held it. And then all of a sudden,
Wow.
bang! This barrage of water that's been stinking in these tires for like 3
Oh my
years. It is all over. It smelled like, swamp water for sure, right? And I mean, and then when the car hit, I see him going that way, and I just followed him like that. It was like slow motion, right?
And you're like, fuck. What the
And I remember the director going, "Man, I got to take that out and put it on my reel. So when I'm talking about camera guys and following the accidents, that's the one, right?" And I said, "Yeah, this is Danny on camera 3. You mind if I take a few minutes and just wipe the swamp water off the camera and myself?"